very good morning. Thank you so much for keeping it TV47. My name is Linda Lala, and it is a time for Morning Cafe. Time to update you on matters, news, and equally have candid discussions, comprehensive for that matter, with special analysts who are going to delve deeper into making you understand some more the stories that are making headlines. It's always a pleasure to have you joining us, and as always, importantly, to update you and ensure that you understand extensively the issues that surround you, the issues that involve you, the issues that affect you. We have so much so in terms of politics. We take a look at the aspect of education, matters, religious activities. We cross over a bit at the borders and see what is happening, across the world. And we ensure that you are up to speed. Always a pleasure to have you joining us. Important also that you interact with us. Hashtag Morning Cafe at TV47 at Linda_Lela. Our Facebook page, that is TV47. You can stream live on our YouTube page too, TV47. Let's get to hear what you have to say about the topics that we'll be delving deep into. You know how we do it. We take a look at the newspapers. We take a look at the stories that we've prepared for you with my editorial team. And later on, we also have a candid discussion on new lifestyle matters. And of course, it is always a pleasure. We're starting right now all the way to 9 a.m. It's going to be an interesting session, so ensure that you keep it right here. I'll also be taking you through what is happening on the roads, just so you are on alert. We know that people are out here moving out and about after that reopening or easing of some of the restrictions to do with COVID-19. And as the latest it is, indeed, students are not going to go back to school this year. So we kick off with that one right here, and that there will be no national examinations this year. The Ministry of Education has announced. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says that basic education will resume next year, while those in tertiary and universities will resume upon meeting the COVID-19 precautionary measures, as Joash Onsare now reports.
The expectations of having KCPE and KCSE examination this year are no more.
There shall be no KCPE for the year 2020. Number two, the 2020 Standard 8 and Form 4 cohorts will sit their examinations later in the year of 2021. And number three, the school calendar of this year will be considered lost due to COVID-19.
This was the decision reached by education stakeholders after consultations on the resumption of learning and at the same time protecting the students and teachers from contracting the virus.
We want our children to be safe, and we know our schools at the moment we cannot attain the social distance.
The safety of teachers and learners in their workplace is also very critical and important.
This means come 2021, Form 1 class will be in cohorts after the current class have done their exams next year.
These decisions made on institutions reopening will apply to all children, including those offering international curriculum.
Further, the Ministry of Education is expected to improve on digital learning and other initiatives to enhance home-based learning.
To ensure learners are engaged, the Ministry of Education will enhance remote learning, online distance and e-learning, and explore other innovative approaches to promote equity.
However, technical institutions and universities will reopen upon meeting laid-down measures in combating COVID-19. According to Education CES Professor George Magoha, the decision might be reverted depending on the coronavirus spread in the country. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
All right, now moving on, places of worship will start a phased reopening on Tuesday next week, but under strict guidelines from the government. The guidelines including restricting people above 58 years and those below 13 years, a move that has been challenged with some resistance from a section of religious leaders. Now, the leaders say that there are no clear protocols to ensure that vulnerable persons keep away from places of worship. Take a look.
Allahu Akbar, Allah. The first reopening of places of worship will kick off on the Tuesday, the 14th of this month, under strict guidelines. Only 100 people will be allowed for worship at any given service. No service will be allowed to go beyond 1 hour under the guidelines. Persons above 58 years and those below 13 years have been advised to stay away from public worship places, as well as those with underlying health conditions. Worship places will also be required to have sanitizers and hand-washing points. The leaders of the religious places have also been advised to get alternative methods of collecting offerings and tithes.
We'll certainly try to help their elderly, even wherever they are, to attend to them and advise them that this is for their good and for their safety. This is why we are now in the realm of personal responsibility and community responsibility.
The age factor has not, however, gone well with a number of church leaders who want it reviewed. Many religious leaders are said to be above the 58 years age limit. And with some worship places having huge number of congregants, this will now mean more services to serve the large numbers.
It is up to each one of the faith tradition leaders, their assemblies, all their groups, to see how to put into practice some of those concrete suggestions we make. So for those who are presiding, it will be up to their seniors or the persons in church now to determine which of them and the way they have to handle it.
The Interfaith Council, led by Archbishop Anthony Muheria, will prepare a report on the first phase before a review.
We must ensure the safety of each and every one of our congregants. The Interfaith Council will review and advise accordingly in the next 3 weeks.
And as we couple this with a newspaper review, Senator Kijana Steve, I call him that, Nderi, is joining us this morning. He's the leader, Empowerment and Liberation Party, to delve deep into understanding what is on the newspaper and equally the stories that I've captured. And Steve, good morning. Steve, good morning.
Linda.
You okay?
Good. Yes, I'm fine. I'm fine from Nyeri. I'm still in Nyeri. The restriction of movement has still found me in Nyeri. So I decided, with the Kagwe's, Kagwe trying to, tell the people who are in the villages, stay there first. Don't really come as if it's an emergency. So I'm still staying here, trying to observe how things go, so that I can decide whether to go back to the city at the moment. And I think that it's a bright day, and we hope that people are going to be responsible.
Yeah, I think that is actually the clarion call, that everyone be responsible. So you're amongst the few who acknowledge this move to reopen or to ease some restrictions?
Yeah, I'm one of the few people who thought that business was really not doing well with the restriction. Yeah. And having observed people and how they were not really observing social distance and some of those important measures, I felt that with or without the restriction of movement, people are just suffering in their businesses. We've seen a lot of big companies, including some of those that are in the media. They are really cutting off on their staff. People are losing jobs, businesses closed down, people are struggling to live in town. And so I am one of the people who welcome the move by the president to reopen the country. And I think shifting the responsibility to the people, because we were at a place where we thought that the restriction of movement and the curfews were protecting us. Yeah. So I think now the president has told us, now I'm not protecting you through that. And because even when we were protected by the restriction of movement, it wasn't still enough. People had become quite reluctant to follow those COVID-19 precautionary guidelines. So now I think it is time for people to go full throttle in observing the guidelines. So I really welcome the president's move, and I hope that the people are going to heed the call to responsibility.
All right, and speaking of reopening, to those stories that I've touched on matters reopening of churches and schools and different sectors at large, these are the stories that have been captured on the front page of the People Daily. And we have churches, mosques to observe fewer rites once open. Interfaith team prepares harmonized set of procedures to be observed by worshippers, as captured right here on the front page. And equally on matters education, this is the biggest story, the lost school year. Tough measures planning to resume in January 2021, as Magoha has also said that he will cancel primary and secondary exams because of the coronavirus pandemic, captured on page 2, 3, and 4. These are the biggest stories, the very same ones that I have started with as prepared by my editorial team. I mean, what do you make of this? And first of all, just to note is that what is being given as measures in terms of, us reopening or schools going back to normalcy, or even, religious activities going or resuming. I mean, recommendations have been presented by their very own leaders, the interfaith team, put into consideration what would be necessary. Then we have talks and conversations on board that this age limit, especially for the oldest, that is below 58, is unfair. What do you make of that? Because, I mean, this has been reached upon by the very same, religious leaders.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, the kind of complaints we've had from a few members of the religious sector have quite been unfair, because we are in a national pandemic. We are all experiencing the same challenges. And I think the president did something that was very important, to extend a hand to the religious sector, and to tell them that since this is your sector, can you have a committee that is going to sit down and think about how we can reopen, putting into consideration the lives of our people. And I think having the 58-year-olds and above, and 13-year-old and below, not really going to church, and something that we've also seen, it's not just about church. I think it is time that the church, stops looking at itself from a point of, weaponization. But I think it is about, the health of the people. We've seen Parliament where the Speaker gave an instruction that members who are beyond 58 years should not really attend. So I think it is about protecting the vulnerable. But the question is, how do we enforce the issue of 58-year-old and 13-year-old and below not going to church? How am I going to know that this individual, being a pastor, that this individual is going to be 58 years and above? And so I think that is where we are coming to. It is all about self-responsibility. And I think by the president shifting the responsibility to the church, it meant that, considering that we are now going to have little manageable numbers in church, then the president expects that the church and the specific churches are going to monitor their members. He expects that the church really monitors the kind of age and the kind of, he expects a church to know the age, nature of their members, health conditions of their members. So I think the president shifting the blame, shifting the responsibility to the church, it is upon the church now to enforce that kind of guideline. We cannot now continue depending on the government to now come and check IDs. It is now the responsibility of the church to tell its members that if you are beyond 58 years, for now, let's not really come. If we are going not to have a service that is beyond 100 members, they can look and see how they can have, different services, or they can just make use of the digital and the online preaching through Facebook and through other social media networks to reach those who are not going to be allowed to really come physically to the church. And on the issue of education, I remember the last time we were speaking on Morning Cafe about education, I was of the opinion that we may have to postpone the expectations of the children and the candidates. This was because we could not risk their lives at the expense of just allowing them to complete their education on time. And so I think what Professor Magoha is saying is that we may waste one academic year, but it is not it is more important to do that than to come back and then have no kids to teach, because maybe they may be taken by this virus. So I was thinking that by having the candidates only, it will be very easy to observe social distancing. I also had an idea that having children going back to school in mass, it is going to be very difficult to enforce social distancing after class, outside class. It is going to be very difficult because you cannot manage children. Children are quite, are going to be quite cheerful. They are going to be quite, restless. Having not been in school, they are going to be in the mood of playing, and it's going to be very hard to manage them. But for candidates who know that we are now in our final year of this school, we have come to complete our syllabus, and so that we can have a date with our national exams soon, I think they are going to be responsible and they are going to observe the necessary guidelines. So I think I welcome the move by CS Magoha. I welcome the move by CS Magoha to have only candidates going back to school. But I think on the issue of the rest of the school kids, it will only be fair if they can devise a way that once the children go back to school, whether it's next year, if there is a way we can catalyze and accelerate the syllabuses so that one academic year is not lost. If there must be a way that it can be covered in the same year. I think that will be also fair to the kids.
And still on the same breath, the Teacher Service Commission CEO Nancy Macharia has noted that going forward, teachers will need psychological support in order to cope with the new guidelines that have been presented by the ministry as it stands right now, so that they can proceed to be able to reopen. Of course, remember, this begins afresh in 2021. So let's take a look at that.
Moving forward, TSC CEO Nancy Macharia stated that the safety of learners as well as that of teachers must be catered for.
As you know, teachers are of a great resource. They are very critical in any education ecosystem.
The Teachers Commission, which has been in consultation with various stakeholders, pointed out that for a successful reopening of schools, the hurdle of age of teachers above 58 as well as those with underlying issues must be looked into. Ms. Macharia adds that the Commission is here to fill schools with adequate teachers in order to cater for each class that is required to be spaced out as per the guidelines from the Ministry of Education.
Teachers, as they report, need psychosocial support. Of course, we looked at issues of if we were to open at any time, what would happen because of those teachers who are 58 years and above. Of course, there are also those teachers with underlying issues. And all these are added responsibilities on the teacher, because then there will be spacing in classes, and all these would compromise the quality of education and, of course, surge the teacher shortage in the country.
The Commission affirms decisions made by the Ministry of Education together with the Ministry of Health. Nanok Lauren, TV47.
Steve Kijana, we can only wait to see what will happen in regards to the same, noting that the teachers might need psychological, of course, look, and also looking at the situation where they say they might need to be looked into in terms of ensuring that they get proper counseling. I mean, it looks like it's a beehive of activities on this matters education, but anyway, we can only hope that things are going to be best. But moving on to a different story, more than 50 people were arrested today in Nairobi following botched Sabasaba commemoration demonstrations, and police officers repulsed the demonstrators by lobbing the tear gas canisters, with scores escaping with minor injuries. Police insist that the demo was illegal, and our reporter Mwangi Minor reports.
I'm not cooperating and I'm not going. Why are you arresting me? Give me a reason. I protest because you're killing us. Who's killing you? You police.
The bold and fearless Wanjiru Wanjira. She was the face of the Sabasaba demonstrations Tuesday at Nairobi's city center. She was not cowed or intimidated by the huge police presence. She stood her ground and made her case known to the world. Simply, she's calling out for a terminal end to the incessant police killings. Human activists alongside other demonstrators had a long day. Police dispersed them by lobbing tear gas canisters, with dozens of them arrested and taken to different police stations within Nairobi, including a 15-year-old boy.
We want to know today why there are 4 youth from Kiamaiko ambao hawajaipatikana. One of them was a DJ, huyo mwingine alikuwa anaitwa Groba. There is a lot happening. I came to the streets today because of Yasin Moyo. Yasin Moyo died only 13, I don't know 15. Alikuwa amesimama kwa balcony and I saw that balcony. I feel the pain. Kitu nanikasirisha zaidi. Today in Central Police Station, right now I'm coming from there is a right of admission. Kwa nini siwezi kubalishwa kuona a mother of a victim of extrajudicial killings? I'm saying everything in Kenya is wrong and it's time that we stand this year and tekeleza katiba and continue doing the right thing. I have been arrested before, so we are not going to stop at that. We are going to keep exercising Article 37 of the Constitution, and I'm here for the ghettos.
Human rights activists say the police needed not to disperse them, saying they were passing an important message on this historic Sabasaba Day. But the problem is to whom the message was being delivered to. The police. They didn't want to hear any of it. They did what they know best, a fierce repulsion of rowdy crowds.
Tunaona kwamba katiba hii yetu ya 2010 iko katika hatari zaidi wakati huu kuliko wakati mwingine wowote tangu tupata hii katiba. Na imetuelekeza kujitokeleza kuitetea. Tunasema kwamba katiba yetu haina kazi ya kuibadilisha. Kazi ni kuitekeleza. Na kwa hivyo tumetokezea kulinda katiba yetu, tuone kwamba haki zetu zimelindwa.
Today's events received unmatched criticism from the Law Society of Kenya, human rights activists and veteran lawyer and Second Liberation remnant John Khaminwa.
Sabasaba is not any other ordinary day. This is a day that we commemorate many of us who came before us, who fought, who were injured, and some who were killed for Kenya to attain multi-party democracy and for Kenya to have a Bill of Rights that takes care of all the interests, the benefits and the rights that we enjoy now.
It is a very small matter. What I understand is that these are young people who wanted to walk in town in support of Sabasaba. Yeah. Now, what is the offense? There's no offense at all. They have committed no offense at all. Yeah. And they should not be in cells at the moment.
Serikali ielewe kwamba ni lazima itii na ikubali kwamba haki za kibinadamu ni haki msingi, na wote wale maskini na wale ambao sio maskini wako na haki ya kusikilizwa na kujieleza. Kwa hivyo ikiwa wananchi wanataka kufanya maandamano kujieleza kwa shida ambazo wanazipata, ni lazima serikali ikubali kwamba hiyo ni sheria ambayo wako nayo.
On his side, Nairobi Regional Police Commander Philip Ndolo says the demonstration had not been approved, thereby disrupting the peace of other Kenyans and terming it illegal.
I did not notify anybody. My office was not notified. No OCPD was notified about the demonstrations that were taking place. So that is wrong. So we arrested over 50 people all over the city. Others ran back after they saw we were coming for them. We have no business with them.
Ndolo promised that the arrested will be released but will be presented in court tomorrow.
Any person who flouts the curfew and the orders for the curfew and also what the Ministry of Health has given about social distancing so that we fight this pandemic, we will deal with them.
What's the next question?
That being the case, we will be arraigning these people to court tomorrow.
Mr. Ndolo said the police will not hesitate to arrest anyone found flouting the stipulated measures by the Ministry of Health to combat the spread of COVID-19.
It has been a special Sabasaba Day today with police arresting more than 50 people
saying that demonstrations and any kind of picketing cannot be allowed in such extraordinary times of the coronavirus pandemic. Mwangi Maina, TV 47, Nairobi.
I'm touching on Sabasaba. There is a story here captured on page, this should be page 9 of the People Daily, and the section of the Sabasaba stalwarts have accused opposition chief Raila Odinga of abandoning the war for democratic reforms, as well as his former allies. Of course, this courtesy on matters the handshake. But as you have seen right there, also Kenyans coming out to demonstrate and, to register their disappointment on how things have been handled in the country. Steve, coming back to you, I mean, what do you make of yesterday's events and what we have just captured right there?
I think Sabasaba as a day in the history of Kenya and its democracy, and especially in terms of the pluralism, in terms of multipartyism. It is a very important day that has been really celebrated every year. And I think it is a day that really has a lot of impact and importance, considering that we are even in a new constitutional dispensation that gives Kenyans more rights. And I think that was what the whole concept of Sabasaba intended to see one day in Kenya. And I think it is quite ironic for the police to be violating the freedoms that have been given to Kenyans by this constitution, because Kenyans in Chapter 4 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 have the right to picket and to peaceful procession. So I think for the police to now be violating the same rights that have been given by this constitution, a constitution which is also a product of the democracy that we have, I think it was quite an unfortunate event that we can be violating the same rights given to our people on a day that we are supposed to be celebrating our democracy. And I think we need to have a conversation about our police and about how they relate with our people, about how they enforce some of the laws that they have, because the main objective of the police is to maintain law and order. What those they are called activists were doing, they were not protesting against anything per se, because there was nothing that was really an issue of procession or protest. What they were doing was just trying to have peaceful processions in celebration of that day, in celebration of the new constitution, in celebration of the rights that we have had as a country. So I think it was not really a good show to be tear gassing the same Kenyans at such a day. And I think we should have a conversation about how our police treat our people, how our police approach issues. I think for the police to tear gas or to even arrest such citizens, they need to have a way of wanting to understand what are these people up to. I think the police need to have a way of approaching protesters or masses in a way that is friendly and in a way that seeks to understand. We have seen recently a lot of killings by police. We have actually lost a sizable number in comparison to the COVID-19 fatalities. But we have lost also a sizable number to the killings by police. I think it is time we now address such issues. And I think even as we talk of the Ministry of Education giving, counseling and, mental health sessions to the teachers, it is also a time that we also have such sessions with our police to also sensitize them on how best they can really relate with our people. So I think for Sabasaba, it was a great day. Personally, I know some of the people who have been arrested. There are people who just simply wanted to celebrate that day. And I think it is unfortunate that happened. About those who are saying that Raila Odinga has quite betrayed the cause, I remember when we were speaking about the BBI presentation and how it had been delayed for the People's President Raila Odinga, as he is called in quotes, to attend and to come back and to jet back in the country. Most Kenyans actually expected that Raila Odinga will jet back yesterday. He has that tendency of going out and coming back on Sabasaba whenever he is about to launch a serious or a top-notch political campaign or political agenda. So that was not the case. And I think for those who feel that he may have betrayed the cause, by going to the handshake, remember there were claims of, electoral theft. So electoral theft is one key part of a successful democracy. And they expected that Raila Odinga, having been a victim of electoral injustice in the past, he would have really gone and really fought for it. But they feel that by Raila Odinga supporting a BBI process, and this BBI process, remember, it has had tendencies of also wanting to deprive Kenyans of some of the rights and freedoms that were given to them by this constitution. We have had also conversations about the BBI process really moving towards a one-party state, away from what the Sabasaba intended to have, which is multi-partyism. So I think for those who are saying that he may have betrayed the cause, they may be right in their own ideas, because they believe that he probably left them. But I think that Raila Odinga cannot be judged on that right now, but we can judge him from the kind of a report that we will see from BBI and whether he will support that report. So we expect, we really would want that BBI report to address issues of electoral injustice. I was a person who participated in that previous election, and I can testify about electoral injustice. So I will also be equally disappointed in Raila Odinga if he failed to really fight for electoral justice in the BBI. So I think I understand why some of those people feel shortchanged. It is because he also made a decision that was against the intentions of many. Many people expected that he will continue opposing and moving in a way that is protesting, mass action in order for him to get power. But he really compromised and handshook with President Uhuru Kenyatta. So I think it was also a good thing for President. It was also a good thing for President, for the people's President Raila Odinga to compromise. So we shouldn't judge him for that.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll not delve deep into that because we'll also be forming, part of our conversation this morning with a different panel altogether. But not to go without asking this question. You have been vying for the senatorial seat, or you vied for the senatorial seat, or you have interest in that. And our senators are yet to agree on revenue allocation formula, with 19 senators of the counties proposed for a revenue reduction boycotting Senate sitting. The standoff in the House is likely to further delay disbursement of funds to county governments, as Elizabeth Mutuku now reports, and we come back to you.
The standoff on the revenue allocation is yet to be resolved, with 19 senators from the counties expected to get reduction of the 316 billion shillings allocation, protesting the formula. The 19 skipped the afternoon session that was expected to debate the matter after it was deferred last week. Counties expected to loosen the proposed formula include Mandera, Isiolo, Wajir, Kilifi, Tana River, Narok, Kitui. Others include Vihiga, Nyamira, Makueni, Turkana, Kwale, Lamu, Garissa, Taita Taveta, Tharaka Nithi, and Marsabit.
This formula is dividing Kenya into two: those who have and those who have none. And let me tell you, there are very interesting things coming up. Referendum, BBI. How do you expect us to go and tell our people, let's vote for this, when you're taking all the money away from them?
These formulas are done by people. People can sit down and work out formulas that ensure, at the very minimum, no county loses a single cent.
Haitakuwa sawa kaunti nyingine zipunguziwe, nyingine ziongezewe. Kwa vile serikali imesema haina pesa za kuongeza, basi zile ambazo ziligawa kwa mwaka 2019, 2020 zigawe zile. Hakuna kaunti hata moja inatakana ipoteze pesa kwa sababu serikali haikuweza kutoa pesa za kutosha.
A section of senators claiming the proposed formula is derailing devolution.
This is a very serious matter. As a senator elected in Isiolo County, I am going to oppose it with all the energy that I have.
The standoff in the Senate over the county allocation formula will see a delay of disbursement of county monies.
Maeneo ambayo hatusemi kwamba kuna ukabila, lakini tunasema ya kwamba kwa nini kuprofile watu hao. Kwa hiyo sisi tunapinga la kwamba hatutakubali kugawanywa kikabila, wala hatuweza kugawanywa kwamba watu wengine walio na pesa. Hatujaona pesa inatolewa kwa tajiri, inatolewa kwa maskini, inapelekwa kwa tajiri.
The country is literally split in two. One side of the country is gaining, the other side of the country is losing. They are using fictitious parameters like roads. Now, when you talk about roads in Turkana, where are those roads?
This is sad, and I am urging the president. These people are misleading you. They are messing your name. Mr. President, please forget about this formula. The whole formula is a waste of time. How do counties lose money? As Mheshimiwa Mazayo said, how do you remove from the poor to the rich?
10 governors have already said they will oppose the proposed formula. Elizabeth Motuko, TV47 Nairobi.
And Steve Kijana, that story also captured on page 9 of the People Daily. Quite a hullabaloo for the counties. The senators now term the new plan as retrogressive, exposed to political manipulation and a gateway to marginalization. What do you make of this stalemate that is there?
The issue of revenue allocation has been a discussion that has been there for long, and it has also been a very prominent discussion in the BBI. And I think it is not even just about the counties, that county revenue allocation, but even in terms of constituencies. We have had a certain conversation, especially driven by Central Kenya MPs, that we have the numbers, but money goes to the ASAL counties or the arid and semi-arid areas. And we have had a lot of money going to the counties, the likes of Isiolo, Mandera, those marginalized counties, as they are called. And it has been going there in terms of equalization fund. But there has been a conversation on whether the kind of monies that go to those counties are really worth it. And considering that the population of those areas is also quite low compared to the population in other areas in the country. So I think looking at the revenue allocation formula, the revenue allocation formula puts into consideration so many things. And we have the issue of population, the size of the county, the state of the infrastructure of that county, whether the county is a marginalized county, whether it is an arid and semi-arid area, the kind of economic activities that happen in that county, how the county has also been managing funds in terms of accountability offered. So I think that having a stalemate about this issue, first of all, I would like to say that we don't really need to blame the president on this. The president has no hand in this issue of revenue allocation. We also had the same conversation on BBI. I also think BBI has nothing to do with this. This has to do with Senate, because it is the senators who really have to put the interest. According to Article 96 of the Constitution, the senators are there to represent the interest of their people. So I think where people feel that they have been shortchanged, I think what we need to do is to consolidate the two formulas. The one that has been there, that has really been giving a lot of money to the marginalized counties in terms of equalization funds, and the new proposed formula to see how we can ensure that those ASAL counties don't lose much, but we also have those counties that deserve more, those counties that really have high population but don't receive money that are commensurate to the kind of needs that are in that county. So I think I would like Senate to really show leadership. It is time for Senate to show leadership in that, and I think they should expedite that kind of process to come out with an allocation process that befits all. I was saying last time that we have seen the Central Kenya leaders speaking about how money has been going to the ASAL counties. But when this proposed formula came, Nyeri County happened to lose 400 million out of the annual allocation that it gets. So I think it is a conversation that we need to get. And I think it is time the Central Kenya leaders and the Central Kenya senators stop looking at it from us versus them. You know, us who probably think we are not marginalized versus those who say that they are marginalized. I think even us who probably don't think we are marginalized, we also happen to have been affected. I think nobody would have expected that Nyeri will be one of the counties which will be losing, considering that we also didn't have a very good population data in the census. So I think I want to hand over the mantle to the Senate and to really request Senate to show leadership, to come out with a revenue allocation formula that really looks into consideration all those issues of marginalization, infrastructure, and you know, how we can try to equalize the marginalized and those counties we perceive to be quite developed. So I think Senate has a very big role, just like it had previously when there was an issue of division of revenue bill standoff between them and Parliament. It is now time for Senate to really take over the mantle and show leadership.
Okay, and perhaps the last story that I'll be touching on matters politics. Kirinyaga Women Representative Wangui Ngirichi has lost her political position as the chairperson of Women Members of Parliament. Her removal being viewed as a continued Jubilee Party purge, which has been targeting Deputy President William Ruto's allies. Take a look.
And I'm ready for the challenge.
Out of 97 women Member of Parliament, 65 voted for the removal of Kirinyaga Women Representative Wangui Ngirichi as the chairperson of the Kenya Women Parliamentary Association, KEWOPA. Ngirichi has been removed over claims that she has failed to be dedicated on issues of women in Parliament. Kiambu Women Representative Gathoni Wamushomba will now chair the Women Caucus Group.
As a chair of this association is to make sure that I deliver on the women agenda. One of the key recipes of the women agenda is to unite women politicians, whether in the National Assembly, those that had aspired to become members, so that we can give them hope of women leadership in this country.
Ngirichi, however, claims that her removal was against and did not follow that law, insisting she is still the chairperson.
Kwa mkutano wa kukutana kuamua kwamba mwenyekiti kutolewa kwa mwenyekiti pia inaitisha watu 33. Pia hiyo tumezidisha. Kwa hapo notice pia ilikuwa tumepatiana notice ya wiki moja. Na notice watu wote walipata, na hata chair ule ametolewa sasa alitumiwa.
Ngirichi is an ally of the Deputy President William Ruto, who recently said his allied have been targeted unfairly in House committees for associating themselves with his 2022 presidential bid. The Jubilee Party has been fumigating its house with over 20 Ruto allies being discharged from House committees and House leadership positions. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Thanks, Josh, for that. And whether the purge is odd or not, and whether indeed it is targeting Deputy President William Ruto's allies, is still a question, even as President Uhuru Kenyatta now issues a stand statement or stand warning to ministers to shun politics. The head of state has told cabinet secretaries to stick to their mandate and ensure service delivery for Kenyans. This is after a rife talk on the likelihoods of cabinet reshuffle, and of course the reshuffle that was said will be targeting again Deputy President William Ruto's allies. Probably some laxity experienced. Steve, briefly on this one, what do you make of this now that the president is out here speaking and saying that some cabinet secretaries have just decided to relax, or probably are a little bit not giving their best, awaiting the reshuffle?
Thank you, Linda. I think on that I will start with the issue of the President Kenyatta issuing a warning against TCS. Yeah. I think I don't want to really term it as ridiculous, but I don't see the really seriousness in that, considering after we saw CS Mwangi Kionjori and the Chesa having been fired from cabinet, some of the reasons that were given that time was that they were involving themselves in politics and were not really focused on service delivery. And I think looking at cabinet right now, I failed to see many Tanga allied CSs getting involved in politics right now. The CSs who have been involved in politics are CSs like CS Wamalwa, and those are CSs that happen to be allied to the BBI side of the government, or that side of the government that supports the president. So I think it is unfair for the president to really come out in public to warn them. I think he should also just warn them internally, because these are people who have actually been doing those politics, allegedly with his blessings. Whatever they have been doing, we have seen CS Eugene Wamalwa even holding rallies against COVID-19 guidelines, and no action has been taken. I think if the president was really serious against that, we would have seen serious legal action taken against such a CS. So I think, giving a warning is not enough, but we would have expected the same kind of sword that was, meted on the Tanga CSs, also meted on CSs like Wamalwa. He should have probably been fired to be shown that you cannot be violating COVID-19 guidelines, you cannot be violating the constitution, which does not allow you to be conducting political rallies and engaging in politics in such a time. So I think on that, there has been a lot of weaponization on how people are purged from government, and we've seen the Kieleweke side or that side that really supports the president allegedly not really facing the sword as it should be. But I would like to speak on the issue of KEWOPA chair Wangui Girishi. I think as much as, first of all, it was part of the purge on the Tanga side and her having been a strong ally of DP Ruto, there is also an issue of the common women's agenda. I think there is an issue that was resolved some years ago in some of these women, UN women forums. And the Common Women Agenda was aimed at promoting the inclusion of women in parliament, the inclusion of women in government, women holding high positions. And I think KEWOPA was supposed to really advocate for that. You saw in the previous parliament, the KEWOPA was really active in advocating for such issues. You saw the member of parliament for Nyeri County, who was the women rep 10, Priscilla Nyokabi, was really on the front line for fighting for affirmative funds. Right. So I think Girishi, as a chair of KEWOPA, has failed, but her removal was not as a result of her failure, but also as part of the purge on Tanga side. And I hope that the new chair is going to really focus on advocating for the Common Women Agenda to ensure that the rights of women and the inclusion of women in government, including the two-gender rule, are really factored in even as we move forward to the BBI and the constitutional referendum.
As they would say, Girishi out, and Gathoni Wamushomba, who's a women rep of Kiambu, comes in. Thank you so much, Senator Steve Kijana, for your time. It's now time that we lock on this session and cross over to a different segment altogether. Well, we'll be discussing some more on the issues that we've just touched on. We'll be having Karl Marx Odhiambo, who's a policy and governance expert, to join me, and also we'll have Denny Okato, who's an advocate of the High Court, to expound more on this particular issue. Amongst them that we'll be touching on, of course, the uproar that has come on board in regards to the reopening of worship places, the back to school dilemma. We'll be talking about the elderly teachers crisis and the talk right now on them getting counseling because of the tough times of COVID-19. We also take a look at the Sabasaba arrests, the BBI standoff that is ongoing right now, and lastly, the fact that things are back to normalcy, so to speak, and we'll be starting with a cartoon edition of the People Daily, which is pretty much interesting. And what we've been talking about, that the president has said, yes, you can step out, but you are on your own. I'll let my analysts weigh in their sentiments on that particular cartoon right after this short break. Morning Cafe will indeed be back with much more. And now we're on the roads, and in as much as we always wanted, or we will always culminate, and it's also important that we address them. And so we'll start off with Mart 3 route, where of course we take a look at the different places and how much of course feedback we're getting from the road users. As you can see, Mombasa Road is key of the roads that most of the people will use. And according to Steve_Kite, Mombasa Road from Simba Cement equals Safi to Sana. But moving on to the next of the tweets. There are a bit of complaints, and there is no public transport in the first place in Kenya. Those are private vehicles carrying the public, and no way government can dictate someone's vehicle. This one is that Jack Thash reacting to some of the tweets that are down here. And one of the questions asked by a road user, and the question is, do you think that the government should regulate fare charges in all routes, especially right now that we saw some hike courtesy of the issues to do with COVID-19? But then it becomes hard because we know very well that in as much as there are some ease of restrictions, yes, we still need to observe that, social distancing and aspect of all that. So different reactions in regards to the same, and public transport should be managed by the government. This is according to Ndumbi_George. This is his take, and still the question again here is, but we do not have public transportation in Kenya. They are simply private means registered as a private public transport. Elisha Erazanyayo. So, of course, another person reacting to the same and saying that, in as much as you'd want to control, or the government should control that, I mean, all these are, of course, subject to, the approval of the people who own these vehicles. Remember the issues that we had with the landlords at some point in time, and people calling upon the government to, intervene. So at least Kenyans are not able to pay rent, but then as it is, that was private property, so there's no way the government could step in. Thanks for being my witness. I decided to pay for 2 months to test their system. I get the clamping SMS, and it's clear that there's no much activity on the roads. Headed to Mombasa Road already at Nyayo Stadium to Kipanda Kukoswadakta kabisa. That is according to FN Jaush, yes, and there is an optimum speed when consumption is at its best, pushing over 100 meters. I think that's just updating us on how to be cautious on the road. And those who are planning to travel to Kisii, Migori had it at Transline offices that they will be start on Thursday. Or yes, also updating you on the fact that different vehicles will now officially start traversing to different parts of the country upon that lift of the cessation of movement. And a bad accident along Magadi Road towards Rongai at MMU involving a truck and approximately 4 other cars. A crazy traffic from Banda School. Thanks for updating us at Dreams Band. So you need to be cautious in the event that you are using that particular road. And away from that, 15 minutes, clearly that means it's fake. Okay, all right. Let's see whether there's somebody else who's long haul bus operators based in Mombasa City have welcomed the decision. So anyway, that aside, let's come to this Google Map and see whether we can have something from Thika Road, because it's also one of the key roads. And here we are at Thika Road. Seems like it's clear still, not so much clogging on matatus or actually traffic as at now. Maybe things are not just yet back to normal. Say this is Githurai, Kahawa South, Zimmerman, Githurai, and the main road right here, taking us all the way to back those sides of Kasarani, Clay Eden, Clay Works, Mwiki Road. Not so much of traffic, as you can see. You know very well that when you see that dark and maroon color, that's when you know that there's a bit of traffic on this road. So it's clear. We are at Gadis City Mall right here, still not so much of traffic. You know that these are the hotspots at Thika Road. Most of the times you'll find that there's so much traffic. And yes, Balozi is all the way coming down. So Survey, we're still coming to town, and there's still not so much of traffic. This is Survey all the way. Some bit of it somewhere around Pangani. I think it's just that a small stretch down there. But then again, it comes to ease all the way to Muranga Road and Tungara East and to Westlands and Parklands. Here we are, not so much of traffic. Kenya Museum Society, Kenya Museum Hill, of course, not so much of traffic. This is the route to Westlands. Equally, it's clear. Parklands is clear. This is where we are. And I mean, it's obviously pretty much clear. Chiromo Lane, Chiromo Museum Society is still also very clear. State House Road, as clear as possible. Dennis Street Road, it is equally as clear. Kilimani, we are as clear. Agwings Kodek, and we are also as clear. Ring Road, Kilimani, Upper Hill Estate, And here we are. It's a clear indication that there's still not so much of matters traffic. James Gishuru Road also as clear as you can see right there. So yes, if you're using the road this morning, it's pretty much a smooth ride. Lavington, Kileleshwa still very clear around Kawangware. Here we are. Macharia Road and Muratha Road still pretty much clear. Coming to these sides of Kangemi also as clear. The Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Center, where of course is pretty much close to the main road, as clear as possible. To Kiambu County also not so bad. So I mean, I don't think there's anything much to report on the roads, and probably that's why we've not seen so much activity by the road users. A clear indication that it is still pretty much okay. Most of the people are not going to the office just yet. So we'll be here to update you later on in the event that we notice anything that is unusual or anything that is worth updating you on matters traffic. But it is now time, like I said, that we cross over to a different discussion altogether. And coming back to the cartoon edition of the People Daily right here, my panel is on standby, or the panelists are on standby. Karl Marx Odhiambo and Denning Okato on standby to tell us more. So gentlemen, I'll allow you to weigh in as I come to join you on this particular edition of the People's Daily Cartoon. And Denning, yes, there you go. You've been left by the president to deal with this on your own. So Wanjiku, you can step out, but remember COVID is out there waiting for you, and it is up to you to figure it out.
Actually, that is the position, because if you do not make it known to Kenyans that indeed at this particular time they are on their own, Kenyans will not take it quite seriously. And that is why the president actually had to use the word, let's say, the cessation of movement, the removal of somewhat the lockdown is conditional, on the ground that if Kenyans do not actually observe the protocols that have been laid down by the ministry, if Kenyans do not want to wear masks, if Kenyans will contribute to the purge in the numbers, then ultimately we'll have to go back to the lockdown. And so that is why you're being told, yes, live, but be mindful that corona is actually out there.
Does it paint a picture, Karl Marx, that the president did this courtesy of the pressure that was meted upon him by the people? Mr. President, please reopen, please, of course, ease some of the restrictions, and now he decided it's okay. Mtoto akililia wembe mpe.
Thank you so much, Lila. The first question we need to ask ourselves, are we apologetic? Are we regretting?
Right.
Do we have questions about this? Was it ill-intended? And if the question is we are regretting, we are apologizing for ourselves, then that means there is something that we didn't do right from the onset. The reason why I say that is because, look at it this way. The whole response looks too overhyped, too overrated, because we talk of you instill fear, mayhem, hysteria, then blind acceptance that everything is exactly the way they're being portrayed within the media. But the reality is, if you get to the markets, you go to shopping centers, you get to public transport, it's normal life they've been living.
Right.
But then, outside here, we are painting a picture like we are in another new order.
Right.
While that is not the reality. The only thing could have been, we could have done much of the research. Then we accept that this thing is not affecting the people of age group, let me talk of from 10 to around 45. These people could have been allowed actually to walk, do
from the word go,
grow the economy from the word go. Grow the economy. Then we don't stop them by the mere fact that there are some other people who also have, we talk, related illnesses. So these people, we can also now tell them, you guys, you can actually self-isolate yourself. Then, there is no science behind this social distancing. Because you want to actually, we want to, by the road, you want to pass, you are behind me, I'm moving, other people, we just, we are just interacting. I will never make my hands or maybe I stretch them to tell you, no, 1 meter away. There's nothing like that, but it's overrated, So, we don't, globalists, we love to actually weaponize words, self-quarantine. You talk of, social distancing. You talk of cases. You talk of, so these words now, we live by them. We are forced to live by them. We have to accept that that is what they are. But the truth of the matter is, and we need to ask ourselves, is it really true that the government really cares about our health? our well-being, our nature of living and everything. If where you are coming from, let's say a certain ward, do you have that hospital that in any case there is that rampant spread of the disease, people can get to be treated?
Sadly no.
Why would I then compel or maybe impel people to be locked down or stay home orders when I don't really care about in case that thing gets out of hand? How do we handle it? The first thing could have been, this is a clear opportunity for us to get back and ask ourselves, is the health sector working? Have we done something tangible from the day one when this thing actually cropped in? Have we done something that today we can talk of, we thrive over that? Everything stopped, but we channel all the resources towards actually now building, improving the health sectors.
But we are talking about this, Dening, at this point, knowing very well that we have a problem in the health sector, knowing very well that, research has been conducted, and of course the specialists, as the president would have said, have said that there's going to be a danger, in the event that we reopen. Remember last time that we all eagerly waited for the president to reopen ease the restrictions. He said that, according to what the specialists say, we are not supposed to proceed and reopen. We need to meet some irreducible minimums. He acknowledges that we've not met them in totality 100%. But then again, he proceeds to reopen the economy. So in as much as we want to say that from the onset, this is what we would have done, are we delving into deeper trouble, knowing very well that indeed we are going into deeper trouble?
Well, Linda, whereas we appreciate the fact that the government took the initiative step of actually trying to contain, that is very appreciative. We really appreciate that, because it really helped us see indeed the import of having some restrictions. Because after all, the restrictions are actually somewhat global. It's not only Kenya that has had restrictions. But then I actually agree with Max to some extent, because when you look at it, look at the number of people, let's say in Kenya, who've passed on out of COVID, and it's a reality that we know, all of us, the fact that this thing is going to be an endemic thing, it's not going away at any time. It's just like the common cold, the way it came and many people died, and then people started living with it. So once you appreciate that fact, then we come back to answer the question of the health sector. And this is where we come back and say that the government has really failed when it comes to the health sector. Because this is not the time when you continue the lockdown for 30 days so that counties can buy 300 beds each county. It's a sorry state of affairs, because there is no way you can say that health was a devolved function 7 years down the line since the first governors came into office, and this is the time when we can start buying beds. This is the time when we can start buying ventilators. Actually, you'll find there are counties which do not even have a single ventilator, and yet they have a governor, yet the county assembly usually approves funds when it comes to the budget making process. So for me, we really need to take a back, revisit our health sector, and actually start thinking going forward what is going to happen, just in case, as they say, the health sector might become overwhelmed. What will we do at that time?
And going away from the sad state of the health sector,
I would have
all right, briefly, yes, as we come into a different...
more importantly, I think it is high time again we accept the reality that this disease is not going to disappear just because we've unlocked ourselves. This disease is not going away. We are going to live with this disease. But then, can we now accept that the entire nation needs to actually feel that we can do things normally? This word abnormally is making things to look so, you still fear people and make people look like the next minute everybody's dead in this country. These projections of like everybody's stuck on their medias. And for you to beat this,
you want them to sugarcoat.
Do you know what we need to do? We need to actually self-distance ourselves from the media. Because
is it the media or is the information that is coming from the Ministry of Health?
If it is not a media who actually broke this information, would you have known about corona? And by the way, do you know the breaking news for the corona, the updates are daily.
Yes.
Whoever wants to beat it, avoid media.
When you say avoid media, what do you mean exactly? Because then again,
when it comes to corona, you get what I mean?
Before we even report it, or you know much social media.
Yes. You know much of this information. When I talk of media, I'm not only talking about the
social media. But how can you stay in the dark?
Because let me tell you, too much updates, making people to look like everything is going to stop the next minute. Let me tell you, anything that does not respect God and does not respect human life and does not respect nature, that is something that needs to be avoided completely.
Now that you speak about respecting God, and here we are, the new worship APRA or order brings APRA, and here we are, the new normal beckons. Now the new normal is abnormal also in a way.
Actually,
for the worshippers. And yes, here we are, a presentation by the very same interfaith team. Now this one you cannot blame President Uhuru Kenyatta, because he was awarded too also with risk recommendations. What do you make of these recommendations so far?
Well, now we have a tangent that we have to take, you know. As at now, you cannot say that we cannot blame President Uhuru Kenyatta. Of course.
He has a say also,
I mean, who are the people who inaugurated this interfaith committee? It's Matiang'i and Kagwe. And those are the speakers of the president. I mean, they speak on behalf of the president. I mean, these are meetings that were held, of course, in camera. We do not know exactly what they discussed about, but this is the outcome. Something that was quite expected that it's going to happen. And I'm sure the APRO is based on, of course, the limited number of people that would now attend churches.
And the age limits also.
And the age limit, you see, someone who's below 13 and below will not attend. Someone who's above 57, 58 will not attend. So the reason why the APRO is there is how our church is going to run. First of all, churches have been off for almost 3 to 4 months. Now, churches have employees. Churches have to run other things. Churches have loans even.
And churches are getting money from the common man.
Exactly. and so if you say that there are specific people who will not attend church, definitely the APRO is not actually about anything else. The APRO is about how our church is going to survive going forward. Because when you limit the number of worshippers, it means then that the financial aspect of it then becomes at play. So I think that is the reason why the APRO is there. But of course, they will hide under other things so that not to actually break their cover. But that's the reason why you'll find people complaining about the new guidelines.
And of course, this cuts across not just for churches, but also I would want to believe for mosques and all that. And then, Carl, that we would ask, the interfaith team was not cognizant of the structures that we have in church, because then after this particular point, it's like they fail to realize how much, overpopulation we have, of the oldest, 58 and above, that, will always attend churches. Actually, most of them who are key leaders of the churches are, 58 and above, or are 50 and above moving forward. So were they not cognizant of some of these things? And I mean, how realistic are some of these proposals that they have presented?
Just to pick it from where my colleague has left it, the truth of the matter is, when you talk of a church without elders, a church without kids, okay, tell me how people will be praying in this church. Because, when you talk of the young people, the kids, that population no longer in church. When you're talking about the elders, they are no longer in church. Not only the church, now we are talking about all the religions. So, I'm asking myself, if really we are talking about a formula that is going to work, then this formula is like, we've decided to talk of again, the churches also need to get back through their structures and ask, do we now only call for those who are only tithing and those who are only giving? Because again, why would you come to the church and we have so many of the expenses and the people who will be coming, actually those who are always more to the church, these are the people who are not we say they give much to the church, but then they will be doing a lot in this church, cleaning the church, participating, volunteering, whatever, everything will be them. But again, you are now saying close the window. So somebody will be saying, okay, fine, let me use a formula. Those who are actually tithing and giving much in terms of the offering, they are the people to come, the 100 you're talking about. And then how will you know whether it is 1 hour? Because again, the police might crop in and the pastor is there. This is the time now, you better lie. Because I have said you better lie. You come in, almost we've taken 1 hour. Then if you ask us, Oh, police officer, pastor, how long have you been here?
Right.
5 minutes. Because then how will you send people away? Or maybe you will be restricting yourself in terms of the services. When churches like, let me just use the Seventh-day Adventists.
Yes.
You know, announcement only will be taking more than 1 hour. You know? So we need to be very practical. These things we need not to rush, or maybe, if it is true that we need to open churches, then let us just say the churches, we open the churches, but then you people, conduct yourself in a manner simply to mean that you are protecting yourself and you are protecting your...
Let people be self-conscious.
Definitely. So then everything will be running.
All right.
Yeah.
The same thing I was actually giving out in terms of the proposals for the schools.
Yeah.
I told them this thing is not going to work out. The task force will come with all these things. But the funny thing is, you cannot stop one given sector to move another one. If we are going to stop all of us, we have to stop at once.
All right, hold it right there. And thou shalt not lie. I mean, what will happen to that? Because then it looks like we're going to push the men of God to a point where they'll have to lie so hard. So some of them will say, I am 50, and they are clearly 58,
Correct.
you know.
You see, Linda, and actually that is what is going to happen.
Yeah.
Unless now they will have to leave their national identity cards at the church. People are going to lie about their age. And I mean, the churches have been put in a very awkward situation. Look at something like discourage choirs. I mean, how can a church function without a choir?
Okay.
Because there is no way you can play a pre-recorded choir setting and expect it to hit as if it's in church.
But we all thought that maybe the virtual sessions would not work, but they are working so well all the same.
Look at the statistics. I mean, research has not actually been done on the results of it.
Okay, and then you can always come in. Don't just like...
Yeah, when it's done, you will realize that indeed it was not... Actually, I think it's 20% successful, because the essence of... Well, the church is not the building, but the essence of being in church is being together as believers, you know, being together and worshiping. So for me, there are actually some guidelines and protocols that have been given by the Interfaith Council, which I'm very certain they're going to be broken, and they are going to force the men of God, or the people of the cloth, the men of the cloth, to really lie.
Right.
You cannot restrict a service to 1 hour. How about churches that really have, let's say, yes, 2 services, you can have 1 hour, but then there's a process in a service in church, you know? You cannot actually force them to hurry up on how they're supposed to do. So for me, as Max is putting it, you'll realize that most people will actually be saying, we've just done 5 minutes. Or it will now bring the normal thing that we are used to, the 50 shillings to the police officer, you know, and you see it's in church.
All right, that's pretty much unfortunate. Let's look on that one, Carl, and come to what you were introducing us to, that is on Matters Education. And the dilemma is here. First of all, what would be your ratings on how Magoha has performed in handling this?
You know, Professor, that was my lecturer. Now, at times I think if you've actually been to these public offices, I don't know, we always lose focus or something. Because, you know, it's not a matter of actually getting to do, series of, updates and whatever.
Yeah.
Get back, okay? Reorganize yourself. And come up with a clear way, a clear roadmap to the people, because you are leading, the education sector is almost like everything in this country.
Yeah.
So, when you, today, like the kids to remain at home, we will be thinking of this. No, the truth of the matter is, immediately we've lost close to 4 months. There is nowhere we can recover that. And we could have just, from day one, we could have just told our kids that, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
We will have to start from 2021. Because even if we talk of KCPE or KCSE, Linda, let me ask you.
Yeah.
If you do your KCPE today, and the KCSE also done, okay? These people need to be promoted. Now, when you promote them, there are those people who are not actually moving. They were stagnated because to them, they didn't do any exam to make them promote themselves to another level.
Yeah.
So there is a gap. Where is the gap? We will be having a gap that the class 8s will not be there. And the form 1s will be double the number.
Yeah. Because these ones have joined them.
And those who are supposed to be getting into baby class, you call them preschools, they are not. You will not be telling them to get back to the stomach.
Right.
So that they need to be reborn for them to, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So the capacity for those who are joining will be doubled.
Okay.
Those who are supposed to be joining for one will be doubled, and the entry to the universities will also be doubled. Do we have the capacity?
Right.
And where will we get the students actually to fill the class 8, the form 4s, and the whatever? You get what I mean? So the truth of the matter is you cannot move one part and you leave other parts to be stagnated.
Yeah.
If it is a matter of stopping, we have to stop everything. Because again, if you go to almost all our universities, the lecturers, do you believe that 3/4 are actually above 50 something?
Yeah.
So where will we be telling them to go and teach, while the same people who are supposed to be teaching us are actually the people we are telling stay at home? The same primary section whereby you want to tell them, can you now, you people, high school and primary, you get to school. Right. The question is, now they will be going to school. Kids of age below 10 will never understand what social distancing is. They will never understand the 1 meter away. They will never understand what masking is. So you tell them that the break is there, everybody's like, you know. So once that has now hit them, where will they be taking this disease? So the age group that is supposed to be moving does not understand it. The people who understand it are more vulnerable. So the problem is we need to now make people, Kenyans, I mean not only Kenyans, I think the whole world now, we need to accept that the disease is here. Can we live with it so that we actually bold to the disease to a point that we can now live and we move on.
All right. And speaking of moving on, do you suppose that CS Magoha then wouldn't have treated us to all this, addresses every other time, that it was bound to happen, that this would be pushed to probably next year? Why did it take him so long to? When you observe
Magoha's personality, I think at times he speaks from his own mind, without actually waiting to get expert opinion. And this is what has been. He goes to Nakuru, he tells us KCSE might be done in April 2021. He goes to another place, he tells us there's a possibility of opening schools in September. He goes to, now, yesterday he says, now they will do KCSE and KCP later in the year next year. As much as Magoha is serving at the pleasure of the president, the president should not actually police him, he's a cabinet secretary. He has all the powers he needs to come up with stakeholders and form committees and commissions to give him expert opinion. What have these people been doing? Because they've been meeting. They've been meeting. I'm sure there's some allowances that are given to sit in that meeting. So I would actually say he has been treating us to, I don't know what correct word to use, but it's not the proper thing that a cabinet secretary should have done, because there is no way you can be telling Kenyans a different news every day, yet you are a cabinet secretary. You leave those to undersecretaries, but a cabinet secretary should speak from a point of information. And that is why the question is asked, what is the formula that has been used to allow TVET and universities to reopen in September? Gradually. Exactly. Yet, high schools and kindergartens and all those are not happening. What is the formula? This is the information you need to give Kenyans. Do not just come there and give us an order that you are not going to open schools until January. Actually, this is now stress to the parents. You can imagine those who had paid school fees for the whole year, So apart from stressing the parents, look at the double intakes that are going to happen. I mean, what is going to happen to these Form 4s and Class 8s? Are they going to go back to school? When they go back to school, yes, the others might remain behind. But what are the modalities that are going to happen? Because when you just come and tell Kenyans that we've lost a whole year, what exactly do you mean? Because for me, I think we should not have scrapped off the whole year. We can always come up with modalities to cushion the time that has been lost. Not actually to cancel, because now this is chaos. And next year we are going to see a lot of chaos. We are expecting a lot of court cases because of the school fees issue. See, there are schools that will tell you, we've already, you paid, the money was used.
But speaking of that, do you suppose then that it would have been wise for maybe the CS to order that no activity or learning activity should be conducted in the country right from that time? Because activities have been ongoing, and discrepancies now coming out clear, that there are students who've been, lucky enough to get these activities, or maybe lucky enough to proceed with the aspect of education, but there are others who have clearly not been lucky enough to do that. And sometimes some of us are even scared because, you find that you have a child, and indeed all this information and material has been sent to you, but you barely have time to take your child through that session. So what are the likelihoods that these teachers are going to go back to square one, or where they left it at after they've proceeded this far?
I mean, sometimes, I'm wondering. Education is not only about teaching.
Yeah.
There is parenting. So there is also that, I'm looking for a term, the rapport created between the teachers and the environment.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Mm-hmm. So education is not only about actually making some ticks and X's. Mm-hmm. This thing is all about making the environment for the kids to, they believe where we are, there is something we are acquiring. Yeah. There is something we are living with. There is something that we are supposed to be using after the process. So the institution alone is that is why we call it a school.
Right.
So, when you talk of, there are some materials that will be sent. Mm-hmm. You can send them via these gadgets. Mm. Well, but the gadget itself will not make the kid believe that, this is the teacher.
Yeah.
This is what I need to get. This is how I need to do it. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of things that they do share, even being in that company of other kids. Right. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I need to learn, I need to get this, I need to understand this, so it was a lot of things. Yeah. So I think the minister really messed up the country. And he needs to own up to that. Yeah. We need sometimes to take responsibility. This thing of being over defensive, I don't understand it. Because if already there is a mess, we can just say, we'll lose nothing. But by just accepting that, we cannot move from where we are, let everything stop from kindergarten to the universities.
Right.
So that when we are going to start the process, all of us will move as a team. Other than we say there is a section moving, there is a section that is now stopped, there is a section that we are still gambling, like either we make them move or stop. That confusion alone within the educational sector is a big problem.
The sectors that have been allowed to move probably would be considered as drivers of the economy in a way, because we know very well that some of these, TVET and some of these, campus and universities and all that are private, will be drivers of the economy. Do you suppose that could have informed this decision?
Okay. When you talk of drivers of the economy,
in a way,
there are drivers of economy today because they are going to actually sit for the exams on that.
Yes.
The question is, immediately you see there will be other people who will be driving that economy in 2 years to come.
So where will they be? Yeah.
Why would you be saying that you only consider the ones that are within the conditionality that is set? Okay. Then you forget about the people who will be driving that economy in another 5 years to come. Mm-hmm. We would have actually talked to ourselves that, the problem is, this thing has actually caught us hands down.
Yeah.
The only option out of it is that, first of all, we stop, we reorganize ourselves, reevaluate, and then we pick it from where we left it.
All right. Elderly teachers, yes, also, the crisis also that is there, as you weigh in on that.
Yes. The reason why we actually have this argument that Max is fronting is the fact that the same cabinet secretary came out and told us we are going to have online learning without even giving it a thought. And you find that actually there are schools which actually have proper structures for online learning, and there are students in this country who do not even own a radio, leave alone a television to view on these platforms where they are teaching online. So you do realize that actually that one is already a mistake in itself, because there is no balance at all. There is no equality. That is some sort of discrimination. And that is why now you see again he's coming and say classes will resume, which means this online learning
has been as good as useless.
Exactly.
It was just sheer revision.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was mere revision, and that is where the problem is. It would have been very fair enough to just say, well, the schools that want to do online, let it be revision, so that students who actually cannot access online learning will not be disadvantaged.
Okay.
But you see, when you come and say that the syllabus can actually continue online, what of the student, and there are many, in the percentage, there are very many who cannot have access to that. So that is disadvantageous, and again it brings us back to square one.
All right, of course.
And agree with me that online, when you talk of online, first of all, it's not a matter of you will take your gadget and then you just get everything. There is also cost involved. So who is actually giving out this? Because when really we wanted the whole thing to go internet, then first of all they could have actually get back to the subscribers. They tell them, each and every parent Okay, they will be getting these given platforms for free, so that so long as you have a phone, whether I don't know how to classify, whether smartphone or whatever, each and every person can access this information, or maybe they create some centers, which again the gathering would have not been there. So it's like we are creating, a lot of confusion within ourselves, and we know very well. Even if today you will have the gadgets, okay, you will not be accessing all those materials each and every day.
You will not.
So the cost involved could have also been a factor. And again, they could have also asked themselves, do we have the network all over the country? Do we have electricity all over the country? There are some areas in this country that the power blackout can even go for 2 months.
And kerosene
how do you
prices are
expect?
high.
The kerosene itself. Where will they even be getting the power even to charge those phones that you want them to use? So these things we don't need just to gamble. These are the lives of the young people who will be actually growing this economy in another time. We need to we need to be role models for them.
And that is why we say
exactly
before a cabinet secretary comes
to speak,
speak from a point of information.
Okay,
Yes,
all right. Speaking of from a point of information, we leave that aside and we come to the Saba Saba arrests that we witnessed yesterday, and Saba Saba celebrations across different parts of the countries, and reactions from different people, and the leadership too. The likes of Martha Karua was somewhere else staging these I wouldn't say protests, but equally just marking or commemorating this particular day. Some also pointing a finger at Right Honorable Raila Odinga for the fact that he's been absent on this liberation moves that he was actively involved at at some point in time. But interestingly, Kenyans looked away from the liberation aspect, and they were talking much about the brutal police brutality and the brutal actions from the police. What do you make of yesterday's sessions?
I will just get it back from the time when we talked about putting the masks and all these stuffs and curfew and all that. You could see that we are dealing with we call discipline forces. And this is a service. It is not a force. First of all, you will ask yourself, if we have curfew and the time is already lapsing, do we beat people, or we tell them not to do this the next minute? And do we instill more fear in them, or we actually lead them, or maybe escort them to the right places? Because I was asking myself whether curfew is like a protest, or a curfew is like a government directive over some disobedience, or it was looking like there are some forces, you are fighting for something, there are some protests somewhere, there was some strike somewhere. So the way they were actually handling, you would actually get to ask yourself, do we really have a police that really understands their role, and do they really know exactly what they're supposed to be doing? And like masking, how do you get to a point whereby you can shoot just because of a mask? That is life.
But just how do the police, or how would they have handled this? In the event that very well, it's in a public domain that you're not supposed to be out at 7 p.m. It's on public domain that you should just have your mask. But we still go ahead and flout these rules.
Okay, if you talk of you're supposed to be living at this time, or you're supposed to be there at this given time. Not all conditions are the same. It's not permanent, whereby we say it's a level playing ground. There is somebody who actually is working, let's say you are moving all the way from Githurai, you're working in Karen. Now, your boss will be leaving you because they know by Samoja you're supposed to be leaving. They will say, man, you're supposed to be out of work maybe at 6.
At 6.
6 traffic. For you to get to town and then you connect, already 7 you're here. How do you get, because nobody, let me tell you.
Is that not attributed to lack of planning?
That is what I'm telling you. Nobody would love to get into trouble when they know that thing touches on their lives. So then we need also to tell them that, we are not encouraging you people to violate this. But then can we be disciplined within ourselves so that what we are doing is all, that there's some mutual agreement between the forces and, the discipline force and also that people. Now, coming to the Saba Saba, then what do you mean? If you read Article 4 of the Kenyan Constitution, you will see that we are talking about
the right to picket and
to picketing and all that. If somebody is just walking, doing nothing, not even destroying any property, not looting, they are just actually, they are only, some of them, they were even just excited. To me, that is what I'm saying. That, let us just go and celebrate this day. Why would we tear gas them? Why would we get to a point whereby we can clobber them? I think these are people we just need to just offer some security around them, let them do their stuff. And let me tell you, when people are not always insulted or maybe like kind of you ignite them on anything, they will never react.
Okay.
Those are human beings who sometimes maybe you thought they could even be there for 2 hours, but the way you've decided to handle it will make them even be there for 30 minutes.
So do we have a better police force in this case? I mean, are they sad that we have so much so...
It's not a better police force.
Right.
Actually, it's a police force.
Okay.
It's not a police service.
Right.
It's not a police,
it's not a police service,
force.
yes.
As much as the Constitution sweetens that name,
To service.
it's a police force.
Yeah.
These people are not good people. Actually, we have good policemen, but most of them, the way they treat... They treat fellow Kenyans because they are civilians also.
Yeah.
And I would say this is attributable to the training that these people go through at Kiganjo Training College.
Right.
You go there expecting to be taught how to come to do utumishi kwa wote. But then the way you are treated there, it's as if you had stolen and now you've gone to a military camp. So the training of the policemen has also been militarized, you know, as if you're going to guard borders. That is where the problem starts from. So you live there, you have PTSD from training, not even from anything else in life. You already have PTSD from training. You are sent to a hardship area or you are sent somewhere. Trust me, you will encounter with a citizen and you will have to unleash the PTSD on them. But that is not to say we do not have good policemen. We have good policemen. You remember the first days of the curfew, you saw policemen actually sanitize people,
yes.
help a woman cross the road, you know. That is how it's supposed to be. Because at the end of the day, what fear does to people, it leads to rebellion.
Okay.
What regression does to people, it leads to rebellion. When you force me to do something, and actually I can see it's very unjust, I will rebel. And I'll give an example with what lockdown has done.
Yeah.
You could see, yes, we are in lockdown, but what are people doing? People are mingling, people are having fun, people have gone back to work. So I would say really, we need to change, and I would actually speak to the National Police Service Commission. I think they are sleeping on their job, you know, because the most important thing that we've ever seen the commission do is to vet top police officers.
Right.
They need to actually come into and look at the welfare of the officers, because that is the problem. I mean, all this stress, apart from how the training is, it comes from the livelihood.
Yeah.
And that is why a cop will take 50 shillings, you know?
Yeah,
50
as low
shillings.
as 50 shillings, yes.
The level of livelihood.
Right.
If the government would have to look back and actually try to make up, you know, and actually lift the livelihood of these people. And as the spokesman of policemen, of the police service always says, that we are trying to change the narrative that people who come to the police are not people who got D's. You see, if they continue to act that way, we will never remove that thought from us. They need to act what they say. Come to the Sabasaba, I think it was unfortunate. You know, Article 37 is very clear on the rights to demonstrate and picket. As long as it's a limitative right, it's a right that can be limited in law. But you see, if people are not actually breaking things, they're not doing anything, why would you start beating up people? Why would you start hurling tear gases at them? Why would you arrest them? You know, and I can actually tell you that these are things that will always leave an indelible mark on the police service when it comes to bad things that they do.
They've done.
And of course, the people we blame is the government. Yeah, because where was Matiang'i at such a point? You know, because I'm sure maybe. Well, if Raila Odinga would have been there, maybe it would have been slightly different. But just because it has been organized by an NGO and other people, you decide to tear gas people. I mean, it's quite unfortunate in this day and age, in the 21st century, when we have a transformative constitution.
And of course, they are picketing in about 30 seconds or so, you know, in search of justice. Is justice nigh at all? If we're talking about justice for Baby Pendo, justice for all these people, Yasin and all that, is it nigh in any way, in as much as we picket and demonstrate?
You know, at times, you know, when you want to send a message, it doesn't matter how you actually put how you actually express yourself. The most important thing, if you are not violating the rights of other people, then you are free to actually express yourself. Because these are rights that even UN, I mean, everything is always catered for. But the problem with our, now we no longer call them the police service. The problem is that it seems like they always believe that anybody who does anything contrary to their minds, there is a way somebody consumes everything within their mind. They think that this is not right. The only thing they believe is that everybody must always do exactly what they want. But don't force people. Always dialogue with the people. Tell them exactly what you want and what they want, so that you can have a compromised way of engaging. Handling And my worry is, if we are not going to have our police officers getting to understand that the training they're undertaking is for the benefit the benefit of all of us, and not to actually create some enmity or some buffer zone between the citizens and them, their number is even limited. They're just breeding some revolution with the citizens. There is a point that the number of the forces, even if you add the total number, they will not even get to around 500,000. You are talking, you cannot counter with 54 million. These people are just not trying to be radical, but you are radicalizing them. Through the process of actually always instilling injustices, fear, and most of the time, you don't care about how you can break somebody's hand. You cannot because one thing they need to understand: these are our brothers, these are our fathers, these are our sisters, these are our mothers. Why would you treat somebody else like an enemy, while at the same time your sister can also be beaten in another area, your mother can also be beaten in another area? How will you complain? How will you seek for the justice? Because the same time what you're doing, life is like a merry-go-round. By the time you believe that I can actually clobber somebody in Nairobi, you will be having your son. Right. Actually, in a university, let's say in JKUAT, during the protest, that will be the person to suffer. Because you are doing this while thinking that it's benefiting you, or you come to just thump, we did this, we did that. The problem is, every given seed that you plant, you will always reap for it.
All right, interesting. And speaking of Baba and the BBI processes, now there's a hullabaloo or some bit of talk that is more of negative on BBI. And yes, ODM crying foul that Jubilee in a way wants to impose their way. I mean, was this bound to happen?
You see, when you want to slaughter a chicken, you throw maize.
Kut, as Baba would say, kut, and then you're getting it.
And then you capture the chicken and slaughter it. I mean, you see, politics is just a game of the mind also. Just as we say, it's like chess, Everyone is waiting for the checkmate. I would say that, of course, the fact that the president saw something. And the best way that would have happened was to, of course, bring in Raila Odinga to bring tranquility in the country. And once tranquility now steps in, once everyone is comfortable, you strike. It was very expected. It was very expected, as much as they are saying it's not true, but it was expected. And we are going to see more of that. You see, at the end of the day, it's shaping up of the politics. Just as we say in politics, we do not have permanent enemies, permanent friends. That is how it will happen. Right now, Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta might seem like the greatest brothers, how they appear in public and such like things. But at the end of the day, these people are politicians. Everyone is playing their own cards, either hidden under the table or fake cards on the table. And so at the rightful moment, the cards, the master card will be unleashed, and we'll see the winner. So for me, because it's an ongoing process, and the plan is in progress, we are going to see more and more of this.
And we would want to say it is not true, but when you see the chairperson of ODM, that is John Mbadi, speak, when you see the likes of Junet Mohammed speak, then you honestly would be so foolish to imagine that there's nothing like this that is ongoing. So Mbadi out here blaming Jubilee Party, the composition of two key House committees, putting in that Jubilee's party's proposed appointees are clear picture that the BBI report will be frustrated. Junet Mohammed equally saying that indeed this is frustration, and Jubilee is trying to force issues down the throat of ODM. I mean, again, does it speak of a situation where we are looking at a BBI that is only of the interest of ODM and Jubilee?
The problem, and the biggest problem we always have with the political succession is the person or the big man rule. We call them I think is it pluralism? The point here is that by the time you will always get these jitters and like, you know, we were together, we were working on these. Politics, there is nothing called memorandum of understanding. There is nothing we call coalitions or alliances. These are just interests that are always coalescing together.
Correct.
So immediately one will realize that the interest is not actually going to favor them. That is when they will say that we've been betrayed. And that is why the betrayal is always the dose for the so-called memorandum of understanding or maybe these coalitions and alliances. But getting back to the real political arena, the president knows where he sits, that he cannot betray two people in one term. Not possible.
So this is Right Honorable Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto.
And I think these people are reading from something. And if I may tell you, I sometimes I always become very brutal with my words. If you look at it very well, these people are planning not to get the constitution changed. But because you want to throw what you don't want, you will always be saying that is what you want. That is what we say in politics. So what you don't want is what you want, and what you want is what you don't want. So these guys have realized that with the powers vested in the presidency, that guy is really going with everything. Nobody will ever want to change that constitution today. But then because you will make people to have, you know, keep people busy. This side and that side, let them continue debating on issues, and then you guys, you concentrate on other things. So this is diversionary because again, the timing of, you know, there are some jitters within the BBI thing. It was when the president was actually going to give the nation, you know, the address for unlocking and you know, coming with some measures and whatever. That was a way of actually preparing Kenyans that, you know, while you will be focusing to debate on what we don't expect, as we will be doing this, so that you don't actually get to question the president. Because the question is, if we close the country when we had 2 cases, how would we have actually opened the country with 6,000 cases? So because you are not interested in asking such critical questions, the media was to be made to concentrate on non-issues of, like, you know, the BBI. You know, BBI, with or without this discussion of, you know, the committees is not part of what forms the power. Power is not discussed the way we are discussing it. Power is organized with some 5-10 gentlemen who actually, you will never see them roam around or, you know. So by the time you hear these guys are actually disagreeing on some committees, you must know those are just not part of what we need to discuss.
Diversionary tactics.
Those are diversionary tactics. The truth of the matter is, or a matter, I mean, beyond shadow of doubts, these guys have actually planned for everything. They know exactly what they're supposed to be doing each and every step. And take it from me, and you can take that to the bank, they will not discuss this thing anymore.
BBI?
No, the so-called committee.
The committees and all that.
That will never be discussed again. They will come up with something else because already the agenda to settle the jitters within the handshake has already been settled by actually opening the country. You know, so immediately you concentrate on these, they've actually shifted to another thing. Because, for your information, if this constitution is changed anytime 2021, then there will be somewhere within the constitution that we will have to extend the term for the president.
All right.
I don't agree with that.
You do not agree with that?
Because if the process is actually supposed to be followed, just like Mwai Kibaki's tenure, you know, the constitution was promulgated when he was president. So it will just be a procedural issue in law, actually provided for by the same constitution.
Remember, there are talks that the president is still too young. Where does he exit?
Well, but what we've been keen on is that the president cannot do any other tenure as a president. The argument, of course, out here, people are debating on the fact that can the president become the prime minister? Of course he can. that is a different position altogether. And maybe I would agree to that extent of extending a term now to become Prime Minister, but he cannot become a president. And you've seen him say this very categorical, that I wouldn't want to be the first person to
flout the
exactly. So about the presidency, if at all, just as Max puts it, that people want to change the constitution and actually they need to change it, they will hasten the process, you know. And actually this is where we can say Bunge shape up is happening right now. So that when that time comes, maybe it will be an easy ride, you know, it will be a roller coaster. So that when it comes to, you see, once Raila and Uhuru are together, I mean, whipping the majority of Kenyans will become very easy. So the parliamentary procedure will be quite easy. Collection of signatures will be, because among the key things that are being that are leading to the referendum are what we call the Article 255 requirements, things that are supposed to be amended through a referendum. So we have to go to a referendum so that we can. So collection of signatures will be quite easy. I mean, they can accelerate the process and actually get the constitution in 2021. And very high possibility that it will go through. The other day you saw Moses Kuria say that the president is putting against them so that they can actually refuse the amendment. So in other words, we could say Tanga is saying that they will not oppose the amendment.
Because Tanga in a way has said that, you know, we're in support of the BBI, but with some reservations.
Exactly. So it means then if actually they want the constitution, it will go through and it will be inaugurated, the new constitution with amendments will be inaugurated, I mean promulgated, and of course now we move on to the next level of formation of the new offices under that constitution.
All right, now that we would say we are actually not privy to what is the actual thing based on your analogy or your argument. So who is fooling who?
In the whole scenario, there is you know, there are those strong bureaucrats that they don't work in terms of who comes. Because, you know, presidents will be there for some time, you will go, but, you know, the so-called, you call them deep state. These guys are there to stay, and they know how to plan very well. Now, here, there is a game that I think is more hidden between the two gentlemen. The president and the Prime Minister Raila Odinga, there is something much hidden in that card, because I think before these guys could have agreed, there must be something they actually placed on the table, and they agreed on some terms and conditions before they could get to the whole scenario of, you know, we want to change the constitution.
But you just said that there's no memorandum of understanding. I would
no. What I'm saying now, you know, when you talk of political, that is not a memorandum of understanding.
Okay, so this
that is a way of how to play it safe. A way to play it safe to get to the second direction. So the person whom actually I think is going to get it very rough, and of course I think he was also playing very smart in terms of, because he's the guy who actually needs the referendum. It is the deputy president
who needs the referendum.
But the reason why he's saying he doesn't need the referendum is because he needs those people actually to pass the baton. Now, politically, this is what I mean. When you talk of a change the constitution today, there will be a creation of so many positions, and that will be easier for him to dangle everywhere. That will make his candidature to be more strong. But you know, when you talk of this constitution the way it is, and another person within, you know, now the BBI, they go with it the way it is, that will work to their advantage. But if they change that constitution, that will work to their disadvantage. But the opposite actually works here. Now, another danger that is also looming is that, you know, now we are talking about the president who is supposed to be leaving the office. Okay? And there are other three things that are also very important here. There is also that fear of the winner revenge. You understand? There is also another danger here that we talk about the strong, the broadly, policy, foreign policy packages that actually determines who exactly becomes the president. And the third thing is also a point whereby now the bureaucrats come and then they become very hesitant in terms of who takes, or maybe in terms of the change of leadership, who exactly do we need? So the three things will determine exactly how do we now devise institutions that can serve the interest of the few, not the majority, the few, and they will get back and also get to a point whereby now they can shift the voting pattern. You know, your vote, by the way, does not count. Even your number is a wrong number. Your vote is a
disclaimer.
Yes. No. That is
the truth of the matter.
I mean, you can only who actually secures a ballot paper?
The very same people.
Who actually
transports them?
Who will transport them?
The very same
Who will
people.
store them? Who will do the counting? Who will actually release the results? So when do you know the process of actually leaving your house and going and voting? That is the end of it.
It's just a formality.
So anything that happens immediately after you voted, you will never know. So that's why if I hear people, say we are going to make sure that our votes count and what,
I hope you're not telling us not to go out and vote.
No. The minute you will realize that a vote has actually been shifted to the right candidate. I use the word right candidate to mean that when we need favorable conditions, we must always dictate some terms. So therefore, we will say, the voting pattern in Western Kenya has actually shifted from this to that. We will do nothing.
All right, in this matrix, clearly, the common Mwananchi is left. So in a minute or so, Denny Okato, so how do we revive ourselves? How do we fight for ourselves as a common Mwananchi if at all our vote does not count? If, we're talking about BBI and we're talking about the interests of the key people and we're not looking at what will be the interest of the common Mwananchi.
Well, we have to keep on fighting just as we've been fighting. Maybe we can just change tact, but then when we change tact, we are clobbered by the cops. So we go back to our hideouts. Secondly, I don't know if she's been here. There is a lady driving the Kenya Bila Uchaguzi initiative.
What's her name?
I think Ambassador Esther. Yeah. So it's called KBU. Well, Kenyans can actually think of that. Of course.
Do we need an election at all?
Exactly. It's a question that Kenyans can actually think about it and actually engage and see the advantages and disadvantages. So these are some of the things that we can actually look at. But as of now, we can put it very clearly. Right now, Kenyans, tuko kivyetu tu, because the person whom we always saw to be our protector and leader, he's now what John Githongo always says, it's now my time to eat. And I say that without fear of contradiction. It's the Prime Minister's time to relax and enjoy and have some cake. So we are now alone. No one is assisting us. Of course, the Deputy President would not picket on our behalf. He's still a member of the presidency. So of course, he will not bring in such things. But we expect now people like Moses Kuria to now come out and actually, because now they are calling themselves the opposition, quote unquote, let them come now and actually fight for Kenyan Mwananchi, just the same way Mudavadi is saying he's now the official opposition leader and he can never join the government whatsoever, even if whatever carrot is dangled. Let us see this, because I mean, we are at a bad place and we need someone to speak.
Well, if at all the opposition equally speaks for the interests of the people, is something that is still in question all the same. We are winding up, Carl. We are winding up.
Just 1 minute.
Okay, not less than 1 minute.
Yes. I think the biggest problem we have are the political parties. Now, look at it this way. What if we can actually get out of the political parties and we now talk about the values, the principles of, like, when we are going to the ballots, we don't actually give the political parties more power than what we have, so that they dictate for us exactly who to be where and at what time. Then lastly, we also need to get our parties to be weakened. By the time they will be weakened, they will be a level playing ground whereby everybody can negotiate from each and every corner. That is the time they will have a change in this country.
All right. Of course, we can only hope. And like we say, we soldier on. Thank you so much, a gentleman, Karl Marx Odhiambo, policy and governance expert, and Denny Okato, advocate of the High Court. It was great having you. Looking forward for another session as we continue addressing the issues that affect us directly, indirectly. That's where we're going to wind up the current affairs segment. We're crossing over to a different segment altogether, so keep it right here. We'll be right back with more. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. It's time for the lifestyle segment and social issues as we delve more or some more into the education stalemate that we witnessed today. And not just the education stalemate, we take a look at the stalemate across different sectors. And I have two guests on board that will help me expound some more on this. We also get to have their take because they're specialists on these respective sectors that I'll be touching on. I'll be looking at the tourism, the hospitality sector, and I'll also be taking a look briefly at matters education. I know we've talked about that, but we still continue talking because the lives of our children is pretty much important. The teachers out here, the institutions that we highly depend on are pretty much important for us to have these conversations. And joining me this morning, Lizzie Wanyoike, who's the principal and the CEO, NIBS College. Thank you so much for your time. And also we have Ken Mugo, who's our teacher, and we delve deep into understanding this, a high school teacher for that matter. And we have the stalemate right here with us, and the conversation is ongoing on whether to reopen or not. Of course, upon declaration, we will be opening officially in January the 21st. But of course, with some bit of ease on different sectors, like for instance, the universities and the TVET sessions. And clearly, do you suppose that this is a sigh of relief, or whether it's the right move to take as it stands right now that you are the person behind, the NIBS?
For us, it was just a relief, being a private institution, heavily invested and employing over 300 members of staff, teachers and also the support staff. We were badly affected, salary-wise, of course, and we, for employees to stay for a month or 2 or 3 or 4 without salaries, it weighs heavily on me personally, because I feel that I'm the one who is feeding their families, their relatives and all that. So we were hoping that they would open this September, which they did, and we are very happy. In fact, when we went to the meeting, which was organized by the government with Mr. Magoha, Professor Dr. Magoha, we were very excited, and we started our work immediately at the NIBS Technical College. We and working with the modalities, because at the same time we do not want any one of us to die. There is that kind of scare, but all the same, life has to go on, and it seems like this corona is here to stay. So we started the arrangements for reopening. So by September we'll be ready. He said he'll come and check on us, inspect. And we are very, we know we can make it. Our institution is huge. In fact, we had one big building, about 8 floors, which was not used. We had just completed it. So our students can all come, and there are over 5,000 of them. So we hope that they are going to cooperate, and we are also going to cooperate. And we are doing, being a technical institution, we are making most of the materials, like the face masks and the sanitizers and all that. We are very, very ready, and we are self-contained. We don't have to go out, buying these issues.
All right. So just how realistic would this be, maybe Mwalimu, to loop you in? Because we're looking at the restrictions that are being put on board, And Madam Principal here says that, they will try their level best to ensure that they meet what the government expects of them. On the other side, we've had conversations that maybe, would bring us to a point whereby we argue that maybe it's not realistic to even achieve some of these recommendations that have been put on board. Just how realistic are they, and how would you receive it if, this were to happen?
It's not maybe. Like 90% of them, okay, maybe the way Madam says, for high institutions and the ones at her level, it's likely they can meet them. But unless the team that is working on it goes back and gives a clear framework of what's going to be done, like in high schools. I teach in a high school in Western, a population of 2,000 students. It's a boarding school, and it's not as large as Madam says. They have 8 floors and all that. No, in fact, we don't have a story building in our only one dormitory is a story building. The rest is a class of 60 students at least. 60
per class.
60 per class, and That is among the list.
Yeah.
And so unless they tell us, because you know, there was a proposal of opening in September,
right,
which has been pushed to
January.
Mm-hmm. So what was expected, which has not come out clearly, is what is going to be done between September and January in terms of social distancing.
Yeah.
Because the way I've told you, like where I teach, the population is 60 per class.
Okay.
That means if we want to achieve the 15 students per class, simple mathematics says it should be four classes each. Now, my school is Form 1 is 8 streamed, Form 2 is 7, Form 3 and 4 is 6 streamed.
Wow.
So, assuming for Form 1 alone, we need 32 classes, where we currently have 8.
Okay.
For Form 2, we currently have 7, now we need 28. I mean,
it's not possible, it's not realistic.
It doesn't
at all.
require rocket science to know that it is not possible. So unless the way Madam says, you know, COVID is here with us.
Yeah.
That one, we cannot run away from it. So unless they tell us something else that they're going to do, but pushing it there with all the things that were in place and they've not said what they're going to do, it is in one way just being someone. Because, you know, as Madam has put it, she was feeling for her staff.
Right.
I'm not a principal. I'm a government teacher on a salary.
The payment is still ongoing.
Yeah, but I work in a school where we are 70 teachers with 26
This one's that are
26 that are BOM teachers. Yeah. These are my colleagues.
Yeah.
I sit with them. We sympathize with them. Sometimes we are unable to help because, you know, since the schools closed, most of them received the last salary in April.
In April,
And now, as things stand, they're going to receive the first salary
in January.
Hoping if it's open, but maybe January can come, and then you are told also maybe one or two things has happened. It's not going to be open. So I think what the team falls short of is addressing why they are pushing it to January. Of course, it's done with experts, so I cannot really argue that they could have done this or not done that, but it is good to explain. You know, when you have your son or daughter who has finished high school, he was to join college in January, and for one reason or the other is not able to join college. You cannot just tell him, you'll join in May, and the conversation ends there. You have to make it clear to him or her, you'll join in May because I've had these other things to deal with, and I have this plan for you, even if it means kuuza ng'ombe. Tell him.
And I agree with that, because I remember even those times when we were going to close schools, we're tasked as parents to explain to our students why we are staying at home, why this is not going to be the case, why things are going to be different. And now coming to you, Madam Principal, again, I'd want to know, how has it been? Like you say, it's been a tough time. This is a private institution. Have payments been ongoing for the lecturers, for the teachers, as of course normal? Or what are some of the tough times that you experienced that would get you thinking, you know what, at this point, it's a balance between economy and a balance between health and life and everything, and for a moment one would be forced to choose economy?
You see, what happened is in March, we paid them for the full month. We closed around 14th of March, around there. So we paid for them. We paid for April. For May, now our reserves, because we have a payroll of about 6 million per month. And so by that time we could not now get the 6 million together. So what we did, immediately we closed, we put on an online platform for students to run from home. So now there we were able to tell, the lecturers were supposed to be online with the students. This is when we came to find out that some more dedicated than some who are more dedicated than others. So we were checking that our online is very nice. It can tell who is in class, who is not in class, who is engaging the students, who is marking the work. So that helped us now to cut down on the lecturers that are now to participating in this. So we were just paying the ones who
were actively involved.
Actively involved. And we were calling a register even for students. We know the ones who are coming and the ones who are not coming. But the first month they paid the students, some of the students paid fees. Remember, there was that intake which you had just taken, new students who had taken. Some of them had attended for only 1 week. So and then there are those ones who had to report the following Monday. And some of them had paid. So it's like we are using their money now because they have to sustain the others. So it was very, very difficult for us financially. And now for the month of June, we are not sure. We are yet to meet because we have to wait and persuade some of the parents to pay. And it is not forthcoming because we can understand this problem is extended even to the parents. They also don't have money. They were working. Some of them were doing small businesses, other medium businesses. So the situation is critical now. For me, as the head of the department, as the owner of the institution, including now, I was affected both ways, in the school and in hospitality.
Right. And I think we'll also be looking at you and try to get that aspect of it. But before that,
all I can say, if the government allows, our students are capable of sitting for the exams in November, the Kenya National Examinations. If they allow them, we will be able to have the students sit. Of course, we'll test them. When they come, it's going to be hectic. We are going to give them internal exams to make sure that they can sit for the exams.
And that's a cause of worry. But I'll come back with this question to you. First of all, you mentioned something very important where there was gauging of the lecturers that were working well and others who are not working well. And remember the performance assessment talk that has been there, on the teachers and everything. And right now, the coming in of virtual, learning has brought aboard, other things that we've realized that are possible, as a country. And there's been some bit of fear. I'll tell you this because I've engaged with teachers at different levels. And they've said, you know what, this is a good thing. This is a good thing to incorporate in our systems. But there's also fear that we might be aped away. Because if we record some of these clips and we dish them out to the students, why would your employer want you again next year if they still have records of these sessions and they can still, sit students in class or tell them be at home and proceed to learn from these, recordings that we had before?
That is what we will refer to like a necessary evil. And it's also one of the things that this pandemic has brought. We can look at it positively because when you look at virtual learning, you realize in Kenya, apart from very few like international schools and all that, mostly these other schools have not been adopting it, and it's a good thing to be done. So we can say like Corona has come to push it down our throat, which is a good thing. We have to adopt it, but the threat, as you say, is there, and mostly for the people who are in it for the business, but like the private schools, whereby when you're doing business at whatever type of business, you always want to maximize profits and reduce on costs. So if that will help you reduce on cost, you'll go for it. But then it is a necessary thing. Where the world is going, we cannot do without technology. Perhaps it comes to some people have used technology, even our government. So when they came to power, they promised laptops and all that. By then they were not looking at, assuming they had kept their promise of laptops, and they kept coming class 1, class 2, and now high school will come in and like 90% of the students had laptops. It will be much easier now. But now that we have had this situation, I think the government needs to go back and rethink and invest in it. But for the teacher part, that one will always be there. But I think we can move to a level whereby an individual would find a way of like patenting his work, whereby you don't just give your staff your work for free. That one you now need expert advice on it. How do I ensure that this lesson of business or mathematics that I taught and is recorded is mine? Anybody getting it can pay for it just like music and all that. So I think we can move to that level, but we cannot shy away from it. We have to embrace it.
Embrace it as it has come. All right. On a general perspective, Madam, would want to pick on that point that you talked about, students having to go through examinations and all that. But generally, we're looking at a stalemate actually. And I think that's what has brought us to this point whereby we're arguing, what about those ones who are supposed to go through national examinations and then move to the next level? There's going to be a stalemate on this other side and all that. So juggling and balancing this is an issue. So as the Ministry of Education would propose, do you suppose then it would be wise for students across, to just start from where they left it? Because there are some of them who've not been privileged enough to go through these virtual sessions, and it's not because they do not want to. Probably they've not had money, like you say. Parents have also been struggling. They probably do not have access to some of these crucial gadgets for them to be online at this particular time. So wouldn't it be unfair to proceed and get them back in school and proceed to an exam before they get to go back to where they left it at?
Well, we have that. We have gone through all that. There's those students who come from up country, in the villages where there is no network. They could not access our platforms. Then there are those ones who can't, but of course, remember, the young people will always be young people. They think they have free time. They are not seriously thinking about tomorrow. They're just thinking now that I'm freer, I have to move on here, do this. So we know that challenge is there, and it's going to be a very big problem for us when the students come back. And that's why we are saying we have to take them through exams, to make sure that those ones who follow the syllabus to the dot will be able to reach for exams. We just have to revise. Those ones who lagged behind, we have to repeat a semester. So even us in ourselves, we are also repeating semesters. There are those ones who have to now start all over again, because you can't stay away for 4 months and expect to catch up with what was done when you are there. So it is not easy. It's not going to be easy. Even resuming, it's better that we are resuming in September so that by January we are now back on track. But that challenge of online learning is there, and especially now for those ones who are going private colleges and private high schools. In high school, the ones who are in private, these are rich people. They have those ones will be ahead of the others who are in the villages. So sometimes people have to accept that things don't go the way we want in this world. The world is not controlled by us. It's controlled. Even the government is being controlled by the situation. The situation is the one that determines what is going to happen. So it is going to be tough for all of us. Now, for some students, the high school ones, to stay home another 1 year, it's going to also impact in one way or another. They will stay home. Well, some of them will be, they after Form 4 maybe that's okay, but Saturday to stay home again for another 1 year, waiting to go to Form 1 next year. There's going to be a complete shift of so many things. Today I was listening to a radio, one of vernacular radios when I was coming, and where this started, when the young boys reach standard 8, that's when they go for, what do you call it?
Circumcision.
Right. Yeah. Now, one presenter was asking, he's a comedian, what is going to happen now?
But it makes sense.
So what is going to happen?
They'll have to wait some long. And speaking of which, actually, we've had that problem, in Western Kenya. I mean, you teach there. So it's been there's still a conversation on whether, of course, this should be pushed. It's supposed to happen in August in some of the regions, in the country. So that means there's a problem. And Mwalimu, coming to that, and the issues that are going to crop up in regards to the same. You've heard the Teachers Service Commission proposing, counseling for teachers because of the tough times that are ongoing. We still are grappling with the aspect of age. We're still grappling with the aspect of health for the teachers and health for the children. Just how possible and how are we going to, balance this to fit into the situation or where the situation has placed us?
If they talk about counseling, let it not just be talk.
Okay, it should be.
Yeah, it should be.
Because is that a polite way of saying that there's so much talk and less action?
Exactly, and unfortunately. Because when you come to the schools, like I've told you, like where I teach, we have these BOM teachers who've not been on salary. And they'll not be on it until January, possibly. Now, you don't expect this teacher just to come from having not earned, come and get to class and start delivering normally. He's teaching mathematics, teaching chemistry, normally like nothing happened. And then even we have TSC teachers. Teachers mostly, not teachers only, anybody else does, if it's a business or whatever that sustains him wherever he or she is working. Teachers don't, now most teachers are away from where they, like I teach in Western and I'm here in Nairobi now, because my family is here. Now, if there was anything I was doing in Western that was income generating,
that one is stalled up.
It's stalled, and now I'm here. And like any other employee, people have their salaries tied up. You do your calculations. Even though my salary is tied up, I do one or two things that makes me keep going. And then the pandemic has spread to all of us. We are fortunate to be among the people who are still on a salary, but with relatives, friends, and colleagues who are not on a salary. So you cannot sit there like you are on an island with your salary. So with this small salary that you have other people around you. You have a brother, you have a friend, you have somebody you bump into is in our situation. So you realize we are all in a financial mess. So if somebody talks about counseling, it should actually be done clearly. And then when it comes now, we are going back to the system. The fear of corona is there. Some people have not had enough information about it. So there is still that fear. And you are telling this person, you've been telling him before to avoid crowded areas, to avoid people. But now January comes and this is his duty. He has to go and meet a group of 60 7 times in a day. Because I have 7 lessons in a class of 60. So I have to meet different groups of 60 students 7 times in a day. I have to meet colleagues in the staff room and all that. Some people will not be prepared for that. And because it's work, you cannot tell your boss, sitaenda. You might go, but you work, you are doing things silently, not delivering your 100%. So unless somebody is talked to and clearly explained to the measures that are in place and all that, and it goes back to what I told you, what the ministry should do now is to come out and be clear on as we wait for January.
This and this is going to be done. Like for instance, testing of teachers is something that they propose. And maybe coming back to you, Madam, and you are actively involved in 2 different sectors. On a general perspective,
your own. If you fail alone. If you are in drugs, it's you. It's not affecting your peer friends. Right. It's not affecting your parents. It's not affecting anybody. It is you. So here, these students know. They remember. I keep on telling them that life is very individual.
It's got nothing to do with
it has got nothing to do with their colleagues. It's you and you alone. So we are hoping that is going to, for the school, for both, it's going to, we are being patient. Yeah. The board has been meeting. We meet as a board every 2 weeks. We are having a meeting. Every day is like, now I'm waiting for, when I came here, it was a rush. But I said, wherever they are talking about schools and all this, I cannot miss. Yeah. It's very, very important. We keep on meeting and reviewing things. Right. And it's very important for the board to work together. Yeah. And there we are. So life is difficult. And we all have to accept this is not easy. We all have to accept we need to live. We know we just don't want to be careless and die. And we need also to eat, we need to move around, we need to exercise, we need to do all those things. Yes, and also we need to listen to the government. These people are meeting, the high top people sitting in meetings and giving us
pretty much important. And like she says, it's a very important point right here that there are people who are grown up enough and they can manage the kids out here. And January is coming, by the way. I mean, as teachers, psychologically, as you help out the government on this one, what are some of the things that you look at that would probably help us sail through and have our students safe and have you as teachers safe? Because the other day we were arguing this with my editorial team that, what, in as much as we would let go for people to travel, and you say the driver is tested, what of the other 14 or number of passengers who are joining in? I mean,
for the,
as we wind up, yes,
for the testing bit, I think there has been a mix, and the government has been unable even to address it fully, because even at the onset of the pandemic, nobody tested matatu drivers, these ones that have been operating. Nobody tested supermarket staffs. When they said supermarkets will be open, matatus before hotels came in. The testing of staff just started coming up when the hotels were being opened. So I think there has been a mix somewhere. But if the government wants to do it, they can. They know the numbers. Like for schools, they know the numbers that are supposed to be tested, and then what they should do is to localize the testing. But then that is not enough.
That is also a tough
that's a tough, but it's not also enough, because as you said, I can be tested today, and tomorrow
you're exposed.
I'm exposed. So the most important thing is the measures that will help control it. We might not stop it completely, but the measures, the hand washing and whatever. So the masking, the schools, as we sit now, as they go back to their offices, they must be looking at the water points in schools, such that at least it will be, even if it's after 2 classes, there is a watering point like that, and then sanitizers. I mean, for social distance,
that is going to be at all. But anyway, everything is possible. Schools. We keep hoping for the best, and we can only hope that things are going to go back to equilibrium. If not so, then we'll be able to balance all the prospects. And we have our lives safe and the lives of every other person around us. Thank you so much, Madam Lizzie Wanyoike, who is the principal and the CEO of NIBS Technical College. It was great having you. And Mwalimu Ken Mbogo, right? Okay, thank you so much for your time. Also, we look forward to a smooth opening, and we need to see our students back to school and everyone at least get a chance to go back to work. It was great having you since morning, that is 6 a.m. in the morning. Up until now, we have to say kwaheri. We're looking forward to see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. My name is Linda Alela. Nairobi is up next with Matumkio Mtambuko. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Thank you.